What if you found out today that you only had 5 months to live? What would you do? Would you travel? Would you spend money? Would you party? Or would you finally start living? This is the story of Kanji Watanabe, a man who worked for 30 years without really living. A man who only started living when he found out he was dying. And in his last 5 months, he did more than most people do in 50 years. This story will change how you see your life. And because this story is told in simple English, your English listening will also improve. Every sentence is short and clear. Just listen carefully from start to end. Let us begin. Japan, 1950. World War II had ended a few years ago. In a small government office, a man named Kanji sat at his desk. Every day was the same. A file came to his desk. He moved it to another desk. That desk moved it to another. And finally, someone put it on a shelf, where it stayed for weeks, sometimes months, sometimes years. Nothing ever got done. This was Kanji's job, section chief of the Public Affairs Department. A big title, but no real work. For 30 years, this was his life. His colleagues called him the mummy, not because of his age, but because no one had ever seen him smile. No one had ever seen him angry. No one had ever seen him feel anything. He was like a robot, just moving files from one place to another. There was a reason for this. Many years ago, his wife had passed away. He decided to live for his son. He gave up his own dreams. He worked safely in the government. He saved money for his son's future. His son grew up, got married, but even living in the same house, they lived like strangers. They barely spoke. And now, Kanji was sitting in a doctor's office, with a medical report in his hand. Part 2. The news. The doctor opened the report. He read it carefully. He turned the pages slowly. Then he took a deep breath. He looked at Kanji. He said, "You have stomach ulcers." But he could not say what was really written in that report. A few moments later, Kanji knew the truth. He had cancer, a cancer with no cure. Kanji did not cry loudly. He did not ask many questions. He just sat quietly. And slowly, tears fell from his eyes. Like any human being, one question came to his mind. Is this really the end of my story? But what he did not know yet was that his story was not ending. It was just beginning. He had 5 months left to live well. And in those 5 months, he would do more than he had done in 50 years. That evening, Kanji decided something. He would go to his son's room. He would tell him everything. For the first time in many years, he would speak from his heart. He walked to the door. His hand was ready to knock. But then, he heard something. His son and his wife were talking inside. They were talking about Kanji's health. They said he was getting very sick. They said he might die soon. But they were not sad. They were talking about his pension. How much money would come. Who would get it. What they would do with it. Kanji stood there. His already broken heart broke a little more. He slowly moved his hand away from the door. He walked back to his room. That conversation between father and son never happened. The next morning, Kanji went to the bank. He took out a large amount of his savings. He thought, I am going to die anyway. I have lived for others my whole life. Now I will live for myself. That night he went to a club. He met a musician there. He told the musician everything, that he was dying, that he had no time left. He put his head on the table. He was almost crying. The musician put his hand on Kanji's shoulder. He said, most people do not die on the day their heart stops. They die on the day they stop living. My friend, tonight I will show you how to truly live. That night they went from one club to another. Music, dancing, drinking, everything they could do to feel alive. The musician was enjoying all of it. But Kanji, even in the middle of that loud crowd, felt completely alone. He had a drink in his hand, but he did not want to drink it. People were laughing around him, but he did not want to laugh. He felt like two different worlds were. Then he called the band playing on stage. He gave them some money. He asked them to play his favorite song from childhood, a song about how life is shorter than we think. The band started playing, and slowly, Kanji started singing. Softly at first, then louder and louder, until the whole club went quiet. His tears, his voice, his pain made everyone stop. For a few moments, the whole room was still. Then he walked out. For the next few weeks he tried this kind of life. Parties, spending money, looking for fun. But something was still missing. He was alive, but he did not feel alive. Part 5. The Woman Who Was Simply Alive. One day Kanji was walking, going nowhere in particular. Then he saw a familiar face. It was a young woman. She had worked in his government office before. But something was different about her now. She looked so happy, so full of life. Kanji was surprised. He asked, "You left such a secure government job. What are you doing now?" She said, "I work in a small toy factory." Kanji was confused. He said, "Why would you do that? The salary must be so low. You had a safe job here." The woman smiled. She reached into her bag. She took out a small stuffed rabbit. She looked at it gently, and she said, "I love children. They are the most innocent people in this world. I love making them smile. But I cannot be with every child personally, so I thought, why not make toys that bring smiles to their faces? Even when I am not there, I know these toys are making children happy. That makes me very happy." She handed the small rabbit to Kanji. She smiled, and she walked away. Kanji sat there for a long time, looking at the rabbit. This was the first time he had seen someone truly living, not for money, not for title, but for something that mattered to them deeply. On the way home, those words kept playing in his mind. Even when I am not there, my work is still making children smile. Then he looked up, and he saw something, an empty piece of land, full of mud. But some children were playing there, laughing, running, enjoying. Then one child fell into a hole and started crying. And in that one moment, Kanji remembered. A few months ago, some women had come to his office. They wanted that exact piece of land, turned into a playground. He had done nothing with their request. He had put the file on a shelf, like every other file. But now, holding that small rabbit, looking at those children, something woke up inside him. For the first time in a very long time, he felt alive. And he made a decision. He would build that playground. He would do one thing before he left this world that would make children smile. 2 months had already passed. 2 months of trying to understand what truly mattered. Now only 3 months were left. The next morning, Kanji walked into his office. He started pulling out old files, one by one. He found the playground file, but that was just the beginning. He realized he needed hundreds of documents from many different departments. He started visiting department after department. Every office had an excuse. "That file is not here. That is not our job. Please come tomorrow. The responsible person is on leave today." But Kanji kept coming back, every day, again and again. Some officers refused to sign. Kanji went back to them, again and again, until they got tired of saying no, and finally signed. He went to the homes of the women who had made the original request. He got their signatures one by one. At one house, a little girl came running out. She looked up at Kanji. She asked, "Will the playground really be built?" Kanji smiled. He said, "Yes, it will be built, no matter what." His colleagues laughed at him behind his back. They said the old man has gone crazy. Some thought he wanted a promotion. But Kanji did not care about any of that. Then one evening, some local criminals came to him. They wanted that land for themselves. They pushed him. He fell to the ground. His hands bled. They threatened him. They said, "Stop this, or you will lose your life." Kanji slowly stood up. He cleaned his clothes and said just one word. No. He did not stop. One by one, he collected every signature, every approval. The second month was gone. Only 1 month left. Kanji was very weak now. Walking was difficult. His hands shook when he signed papers. Even small tasks made him breathless. But every morning, he woke up with energy, with purpose. And finally, its hard work paid off. The final construction approval came through. Workers arrived. Machines arrived. The mud was cleared. A boundary was drawn. And the first swing was put in place. Kanji looked at it. He knew. His mission was complete. There was one night, a few days before he died. Snow was falling everywhere. Kanji walked into the playground alone. He sat down on that new swing. Slowly, he started singing. The same song from his childhood. The same song he had sung in the club that night, with tears in his eyes. But this time, he was not crying. He was smiling. Because that night, he was not running from death. He had finally learned how to live before dying. Then one day, Kanji left this world. No big speech, no celebration. Just quietly, his story ended. At his funeral, many office colleagues sat together, talking softly. No one really knew him. Even the man who had sat next to him for 20 years said, "I never really knew him at all." Someone said, "I cannot believe the same man who did. Completed all of this in just 3 months." Someone else said, "Maybe he had help." Another person said, "Actually, that idea was mine too. I was also in the meeting." Everyone wanted a little credit, but in that silence, one by one, people started remembering. Those last few months, Kanji running from office to office, collecting files in the rain, falling and getting back up, signing papers with shaking hands, never stopping. Kanji's son was also listening. After the funeral, he walked to the playground. He saw children playing on the swings, laughing, running. The playground was not even fully finished yet, but children do not wait for that. Kanji's son looked at all of this, and he smiled, but his eyes were full of tears. The 4 lessons. The last framework. Kanji's story teaches us 4 powerful lessons. Together they make one word. Last. Look at the end. Kanji's life was on autopilot. Same office, same files, same boring routine. The moment he knew his time was limited, he finally knew what truly mattered. Ask yourself this question. If my story ends soon, what would I truly want to do with my life? This question is uncomfortable, but it might give you the most important answer of your life. A. Align with your strength. Kanji first tried to find life in parties and money, but that was not his world. Then he met the woman with the toy rabbit, and he realized, do what you are actually good at. What can you do that others cannot do as well as you? Find that, and focus on it. S. Serve others. Kanji's life did not change when he asked, "What do I want?" His life changed when he asked, "Whose life can I make better?" When he started working for the children, something woke up inside him. True purpose always points outward, not just toward yourself. T. Think beyond yourself. Kanji knew he did not have much time, but he also knew if he built something that lasted, children would smile long after he was gone. That thought gave him energy, even in his weakest moments. Think about what you can leave behind, something that stays, even when you are no longer here. The final message. Most people do not die on the day their heart stops. They die on the day they stop truly living. Kanji lived for 30 years without really living. And then, in his last 5 months, he lived more than most people do in a lifetime. You do not have to wait for bad news. You do not have to wait for a deadline. Start today. Look at your end. Align with your strength. Serve others. Think beyond yourself. Because the clock is already running, for all of us. The only question is, will you start living before it is too late?